Yo guys, what is up? Andy here, and today we're gonna do what you're gonna do when they come for you. Basically, it happens in our country. Look, we're faced with a harsh reality of police ignorance and misuse of power and abuse of power and just straight up ignorance. So, chances are you're watching this because you're a cannabis enthusiast. Chances are you're in South Africa. Chances are you stand a risk of being arrested for cannabis possession, use, maybe trade, who knows. But there is a process. If you are ever confronted with a situation with the police, if you're ever in sort of this situation, there's a few things that you do need to take note of. And this is just to mention, this is not legal advice. This is just sort of tips and tricks and a guideline of what would be good to do in that situation. But yeah, if you are ever in this situation, as we discuss later, seek legal advice. So we're joined today with Schindlers attorneys. Stefan Bezuidenhout has been very, very generous and helped our channel in the past before, and has helped again today with giving us these awesome tips on what to do if you're ever in that situation. So guys, without further ado, let me introduce you to Stefan Bezuidenhout. Thank you very much and enjoy the show. Hey Stefan, how's it going? Thank you so much for joining us today on this fine episode, something a lot of people have been waiting for, and we're going to be dabbling in a little bit of know-how or sharing your know-how on how to sort of navigate the issues that come up when people are getting arrested. Thanks so much for joining us. I mean, how's it going?
Hi, Andrew. Thanks again for having me. Things are going well my side. Luckily back at the office.
Yeah.
Hope you guys are keeping positive and tasting negative.
As we all should be, and I am definitely a little bit nervous for today's video, because I do tend to get a little bit triggered when it comes to talking about arrests and this and that, and but it's information that I wish I knew before I got arrested back in the day, before guys that worked with me closely have been arrested, and this is important information to share. I'm going to sort of jump right in and just sort of set the scenario. The most common thing that we're hearing about is the home arrest scene. It's generally some sort of unannounced visit from the police. It's generally late at night. I think that's a tactic that they use to sort of, I don't know, get you riled up or stirred up. And yeah, it seems to be often unwarranted, and people are letting them in, and and then they're just getting handcuffed and taken away, and plants are getting ripped up. So there's a lot of mistakes being made by people when this happens. And yeah, if you can just give us a little bit of clarity on maybe what you've seen and how you would have if you were there, how you would advise or give guidance to
I
anyone
think,
going
yeah,
through that.
the the first most important thing is, I think, not to panic, to keep a sound mind and realize a procedure that has to be followed.
Yeah.
You've got the police procedure, you've got a court procedure, and just because the police are knocking on your door does not mean that you are condemned. Doesn't mean that you will have a criminal record automatically. It doesn't mean that you've technically done anything wrong already. So it's very important just to know that, okay, this is a process that's going to take a while. And with that mindset, you can kind of go forward, because what a lot of the time people immediately get defensive and hostile and start phoning attorneys and what's going on, and everybody's just so hyped up that even when a client phones me, I can barely hear what she's saying anymore, because it's just rambling, and I have to tell them, calm down. Like,
Yeah.
this isn't something they're not just going to put a black bag over your head and you go missing from the face of the earth like in the movies. There's a proper arrests. So let's first start with why they're there.
Mm,
That's the first thing you ask them. Why are you here? They will then say either we've got a reasonable suspicion that something's being done here, or alternatively, they will ask you, if they can come in.
mm,
Then you obviously say, do you have a warrant?
yeah.
They can say that yes, they do have a warrant, it's just not there. Then you have your full right to say, well, then I refuse your entry. You are supposed to bring me the original and provide me with a copy thereof as well.
Mm,
Um, this is a bit more difficult when there's based on a reasonable suspicion. You can still basically argue, but these days they'll like to go with a tip-off.
mm,
And proving a tip-off is a bit more difficult because there's channels specifically for remaining anonymous when you
mm.
want to do a tip-off. So that's that. Then when
So,
you get the warrant, obviously look that it's specific to you. This has
yeah.
to be signed by a magistrate. It's not actually something that the police can just get issued there and somewhere within the police station. And it's a very big problem in the proposed bill as well for the minimum amount of quantities.
Mm,
Uh, how many of a magistrate's time are you going to have to waste to issue so many warrants to make sure that where there's one person that have got only 6 plants and not 12 because they're living alone, and does that now automatically this masses of warrants going to give police the authority to run into everyone's garden and check how many plants they've got? Like,
yeah.
it seems so illogical that it's just not reasonable, and
Mm,
therefore we don't think that a judge would also authorize the warrant if he doesn't believe there's reasonable suspicion that it will lead to a serious or that you can uncover some evidence.
mm,
So first thing when he's there, he's like, why are you there? He could
yeah.
be there for a totally different reason, a noise complaint. You could be playing the music too loud, but you are a bit
Folks
stoned,
are
so you are a
flushing all
bit
their weed down the
paranoid.
toilet.
Yeah. And meantime, it's a noise complaint. So firstly, why are you here? If they want to come in and search the property, do you have a warrant? If they don't
Mm,
have that warrant, that nothing's stopping them from bursting down your door, breaking or
mm,
not adhering to your human rights. But that's where most of our cases will get thrown out of court anyway, because
yeah.
it was done without a valid warrant.
Yeah.
So the warrant's definitely a key player here, but let's, for argument's sake, say they do provide you with a warrant.
Yeah.
You do check it is your name, it is your details, it's your address, it's the original. You can see it's been authorized by a magistrate. Don't play hard to get, or don't play hardball and say you still refuse.
Mm,
Just let them in. I would say the best thing is to then do probably try and get record of what was there and afterwards. So maybe start taking out your phone if you've got mates there who's not a part of it, to just take photos of at least all the damage if they
mm.
ripping plants off the ground, and just to
Befores and
keep track
afters.
for, yes, befores and afters is going to be a very big role. Then what's going to happen is they'll have to take you to the police station to officially, open a case and charge you. Now, you can be very cool and collective up until this point, and this is where a lot of people, I would say, really start to panic. And as
Mm,
I said, always during this entire process, it's not going to be a pleasant process. It's not going to be fun. But it is going to be very important for you to just keep a calm mind, because it could heavily depend on the police station that you're in. If you're in Sandton and they take you to the Lekker Sandton police station, I'm pretty sure it's going to be much better than one of your local farmer
yeah.
dorpies out there. I've seen some
Open
police
air
stations
cells.
out there that has been in the worst
Yeah.
conditions. It's almost inhumane to keep people in there,
And
and
it's not one person, one cell like you see in American jail stories. It's, 10,
yeah.
12 folks in one cell, one toilet with no door.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
truly
The
horrific.
cells in Nelspruit doesn't even have a roof there at the
Yeah,
police
yeah.
station. So
Open air.
it is really some inhumane conditions, and I think that's where a lot of people get discouraged, and you'll quickly realize that we are in a third world country,
Yeah.
because it is definitely going to be a bit, and let's not forget they can keep you there for up to 48 hours. So that doesn't seem like too long in your mind. It's 2 days.
Weekend,
Trust me,
yeah.
2 days in there can feel like 2 weeks, and
Yeah.
1 weekend there is just horrible enough. But
Mm,
regardless, you're going to have to go through it. They're going to have to open a file. They're going to have to process you.
mm,
So they'll take your fingerprints and obviously take your mug shots, as they will call it, just your photos. And then afterwards, what you can do is, obviously during this entire process, you insist on that you would like a phone call.
mm.
They should be able to give you one. But I think a good position would be beforehand to see if you qualify for police bail.
Okay.
Police bail is something that can be given to you at the station for lesser offenses. So if you've had possession of something, there's a good chance a high-ranking police official can sign bail for you there, and you get released. Just you've got to appear in courts on your next appearance date.
Okay. So that's
Things to
like
be
a
taken in.
that's just a that would be sort of a medium amount. Is there amount to pay on the police bail? Like
They
100 grand
usually go
or
for about $500.
okay.
Yeah, so that's why I say if you can, the policeman says yes, you will definitely qualify for police bail. I wouldn't recommend wasting your phone call on an attorney.
Mm,
It might be worthwhile just getting a mate or your mom and dad to come,
mm.
pay the bail, sign for the bail, get you out, and then go personally to an attorney. Then
Yeah.
instead of
The attorney coming
owning
out
an
to the
attorney coming out,
yeah.
having to pay the 500 rand bail, which really isn't a lot, and I didn't even have to argue for it.
Yeah.
If
Yeah.
they deny police bail, and from the get-go they say, oh, you've had previous convictions or
Mm,
you've got pending cases against you, that's why we can't give you police bail. Then you're looking at a formal bail application at your
yeah.
next court appearance. Then definitely, spend the time and talk to a lawyer.
Yeah.
But during this entire process, if you've been calm and collected, mostly the policeman or the arresting officer will reciprocate the attitude.
Yeah.
If you're hostile towards them, you're not in the position there to argue,
Yeah.
or you don't have the strong arm.
Yeah.
They can basically treat you inhumanely, and
You're in
all
their
your
house. Yeah.
remedies come way longer.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So try and play by their rules. As I said, stay calm, stay collected,
Courtesy and a
and
little bit,
just
thank you, sir. Thank you. Yeah, yes, ma'am. It's,
yeah.
sometimes you have to bite swallow, it's a tough, bullet to swallow, whatever, pill
Swallow
to
your
swallow.
pride,
Yeah.
basically,
Yeah.
because
But
even as they're doing their jobs, you can sometimes see how incompetent they're doing it, and
mm,
you almost want to help them take better better
yeah,
record of you, but you also don't want to hurt your case in any way. So if
exactly.
they want to do
Or
it wrong, do it
at the end
wrong.
of the, if they pissed off, it's only gonna hurt your case. So I mean,
Yeah.
that is such an important thing. Is I mean, uh, I got pulled over by a traffic cop the other day, and it was probably a much of a misdemeanor up to interpretation or whatever. But I mean, it was just like, hey, how's it going? Hope you're having a great day. Sorry, sir. Very much, and it generally tends to be okay. Have a nice day. Thanks for respecting my job, and they in return respect you. It does go a long way, guys. So if you're ever in that panic
Yes.
situation, just you just have to stay calm, try to be as polite and nice. And remember, it's not you being a pushover, it's you being strategic, and just
Yes.
it's a strategy move.
Yeah, and the other most important thing is when you go get there and to open the file, they're obviously going to say they want you to make a statement.
Mm,
This is very crucial because a lot of people almost give too much detail there. They go on and about completely irrelevant things.
yeah,
You can, so I would say, you would request that you would like to see legal counsel, that they give you a timeline before which they need your statement,
mm.
and you go to an attorney and collectively you make a statement,
Is
which is
this
then taken to police.
is this either this is this happens regardless whether you got police bail or whether you got a formal application for bail. So,
Yes.
because if you're
Yes.
in the cell now for 48 hours, is that when they would try to get you to do the statement, or is that when your attorney would
The
come?
statement,
Or
yeah. So the statement actually is during the time that you're there, but it's not compulsory. As I said,
mm,
we have managed to arrange with policemen to first make a statement at our offices and then bring them the
yeah,
statement.
yeah,
But a lot of the times they have this little police form, fill out your name and your ID, and then they say make a statement. If they insist
mm,
on making a statement, you can very short and very sweet. Hi, my name is Stefan.
mm,
This is my ID number. I deny that the charges against me have any supporting evidence.
mm.
I plead not guilty to the charges. A further statement to follow during the
Once I
proceedings
seek
of court.
counsel or so,
Or,
yeah,
yeah, you can actually say a full version to be given to the court.
yeah,
Because the statement that they're taking down is not necessarily for their intended purposes, it's more for the court.
mm,
So you can fully say, that you would rather speak to the court than make a statement. That's even an option. Say, listen, I
mm.
refuse to make a statement. The only thing is, that can sometimes be seen in a negative light, because why didn't you want to make a statement? What do you
What are
want
you
to
hiding?
hide?
Yeah.
What don't you want to say to us? But it's fully within your rights, and if they almost insist on making any statement, I would try and push and say, no, you'll make your statement in a court of law.
mm.
Because anything you write in that statement, they're going to scrutinize too. And that's why sometimes a lot of people give too much detail there, and then they either incriminate themselves or their friends.
Yeah, they say something. Oh,
When
my friend was
actually,
just there smoking with me, and they're like, "Oh, but your friend, that's it."
so your friend,
Yeah, it's
your friend brought you the weed. So yeah,
yeah, and
there's a
then it's
lot of
boom.
things, and at
Yeah,
the end of the day, you weren't even obliged to tell them anything, and you go rambling on and on about all your suppliers because you're
yeah,
in a panic, and you just don't want to go back to that urine smelled little cell, and you'll do anything to get out of it.
true.
Um, Another thing to be very careful of is admission of guilt fines.
Mm,
Just know I've had clients that say, no, that got possession for zero point 0.3 grams. It was literally a half a joint that was in the glove box of their car. They had to pay a fine of 150 Rand, which is almost nothing.
yeah,
But again, their phones were taken and told, no, it's a minor offense now, and they're not going to get a record. Uh, yeah, so they signed it and paid it, and obviously later when they wanted to go abroad, learned
oh
that this does
no,
in fact carry a record, and then it's a different story. It's review applications to now go and explain this to a judge and to
yeah,
try and prove that they denied you your phone call. All of that stuff is
yeah, because
just a bit too difficult.
I've heard they're very. It's shit to say, but they almost make you sign that under duress. Where it's you're in that panic state. You've been in the cell maybe for like 20 hours, and then only they'll bring out this form and just be like, oh, 150, you go home, and they get
Yeah, it's
an
it's
arrest
either
of
that or the
yeah,
bribe,
yeah,
because they can also say, if you just pass the bribe, we'll get you out here within 30 minutes.
mm. And then it
And
ends up
again, it's easy to say no. It's less easy when you've been sitting in that cell with nothing
yeah,
to do, and you're scared for your life because of all the
in
people that are in there with you. Then suddenly it doesn't seem that bad to just pay a bribe and become part of the system.
yeah,
It is a reality. I won't deny it, but again, you're opening yourself up to a lot more than now just the possession charges that you're in there for.
mm. It's very
So
easy to
very,
say, just you ever get arrested, just slip the guy at 200, or I can give him $500 and you'll go, they'll never come back. And but it's if that turns around, I mean, it's one thing to get off a cannabis bust these days, but to get off a bribery charge is a whole nother thing. I mean, cannabis is gray area, and there's the
yeah.
laws seem to be a little bit more, but taking a
And the
bribe's
difficult,
crystal clear.
yeah,
Or
and the
giving a bribe.
difficult thing is you can take my advice and try and remain calm and collective, yet the policeman from the get-go is not showing you the same kind of courtesy.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they from the get-go, they're aggressive, they're
Guns
insultive,
out. Yeah.
they're very, 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 as you said, they'll come in there and harass you to sign this kind of thing, and no
Yeah.
matter how calm and collected you are, they just won't reciprocate that
Yeah.
kind of attitude.
They came to
Then
my
it's even
place.
more important to just kill them with kindness and
Yeah.
just say like,
So
I
true.
refuse to make a statement, and I'm sorry that you had a long evening, but
They there at 1 a.m.
you just don't tell them. I also wouldn't go on about, oh, I'm gonna report you now, and try to like
What's
don't
your name? What's your
antagonize them.
name? Yeah. Where's your ID? Or show
don't
me your
yeah,
badge.
don't antagonize them. If they do offer you a bribe, I would probably just suggest very politely, as you've been calm and collectively, say no, you'd rather take your chances in court because you know you've done nothing wrong. So you're definitely not going to pay a bribe, or whatever they were going to call it, because they never
Yeah.
call it directly
No,
a
they'll
bribe.
be like, oh,
It's
just buy
always
me a
like
Coke
a
at the
gift.
ATM.
Yeah,
Yeah. Or, let's go just go get me a Coke at the Shell garage and, see
yeah.
the ATM. I mean, I've heard of the Oaks getting pulled into a police van, taken to an ATM, and then waiting for them to draw money. And then like, and like, this is happening to people all the time. But anyway, don't be part of the problem. It's
Yeah.
not something that the cannabis community
So I would rather
encourages.
say, yeah, you've got a much better chance at court than you'll ever do at the police station. The police have been vetted and over the years trained to be hostile and
Mm,
to see cannabis as this huge danger to society, and associated with a lot of the violence that they and then their colleagues get killed over. And
mm,
obviously, we now know that it's not necessarily cannabis, but more harder drugs that are associated with gang violence, etc. But
yeah.
because cannabis was and basically only way to still the commercially, or pay for it, is via the illicit market,
Mm,
and that's why it's still in there,
it's
and
in
why
the
the
same.
argument is just put it regulated,
Yeah.
then it's not going to be there. But regardless, that's still their attitudes, and they're not the ones that can give you that criminal record.
Mm,
They are the ones that has the obligation to arrest you and process you. In an ideal world and in a first world country, that would have been under more sanitary conditions.
mm,
It's unfortunate that this is South Africa, and you just have to mentally prepare yourself.
yeah.
I would say, if you do know this guy shows up with a warrant,
Mm,
and you can see, okay, this is kind of now what's going to happen. Why be hostile, and why delay this when you're making so much more damage for yourself? The
yeah.
first thing I would do is all my possessions on me, wallets, phones, I would try and give to maybe a friend that is not under arrest.
Mm,
Because also, how property will get lost, or people say, oh no, but I had this and this on me and it never came out of evidence, took from
yeah.
you. So just try that, know that you're going to go into this roughly rural process, and that you're just going to have to be calm and collected while you're doing it.
I think there was one other thing. I've heard about signing a lot of problems on signing for confiscations. If they get basically, you get there, they pat you down, they take your shoelaces off, they take your belt, they take your phone, they take your wallet, pretty much everything. Your necklaces, your earrings, your nose rings, your tongue rings. They'll take it all, earbuds, pieces, whatever. And then they'll give you a list that you have to sign to say they've taken this and your wallet has this much money in. But sometimes it's not a complete list. I mean, should they
Yeah, well,
obviously
sometimes,
scrutinize that quite a bit?
yeah, especially like, can you imagine if they come to your house, and usually they won't arrest you just for, the smaller bit, but let's say you've got a few plants or you've got a few jars there, that's
Mm,
obviously either going to be confiscated or destroyed.
mm,
And to then later come back, a lot of these things happen while all this commotion is happening, while you're being arrested,
yeah.
and they're not gonna take you to the police station and take you there outside, wait for the truck to pull in with all your cannabis plants that were in your greenhouse, and
And you're
make you
gonna tick it off a
specifically
list.
count them. No, I mean they're the police. They're gonna say they followed the proper procedure, and therefore it cannot be disputed. But we all know their procedure is open to misuse and
Yeah.
abuse. So therefore, a lot of the times, even if you've got an entire greenhouse that actually gets confiscated, if you
Mm,
do get anything back, sometimes you're lucky if you even get a quarter of that back.
mm,
Whereas the rest gone,
yeah.
up for
Very
debate.
nice. And
But according to them, there wasn't any more. And according to you, it's very difficult to disprove otherwise if you didn't take those before and after,
those photos you
photos as I
mentioned.
recommended, then you
Yeah.
at least have some sort of indication.
Yeah. Because I mean,
Um,
if they're taking your, 10,000 Rand grow lights, or, if they take three of those, I mean, that's a small car they've basically,
yeah,
and those are easy to resell if there is some sort of thievery involved.
yeah.
It's a lot of money. I mean, growing cannabis is expensive.
And a big reason why I'm telling people is to stay so calm and collective towards the police official, even though it feels like the feeling isn't necessarily mutual. This being South Africa as it is in a third world country, they also don't follow procedure to the book. So,
Mm.
for instances, as you said, we've had instances where a person has gone through the entire processing, actually came back and said that wasn't as bad as I thought. They took me there, I took inventory of all my stuff. I was barely in the cell for 2 hours. I got my fingerprints taken,
Mm.
everything, police bail was sorted. I was out there in a few hours. I'm very happy for you. Not everybody has that experience.
Yeah.
Other people get their phones taken away and then get refused a phone call. And I've had a client who was very nice to the policeman and even gave him his phone in the cells and said, you know what, you can Facebook or whatever until the battery's flat, call your lawyer. He allowed him to have his
Yeah.
cell phone in the cell with him, saying that obviously you're not going to phone for a breakaway or anything like that.
Yeah.
If you want to phone your lawyer, phone your lawyer. If you want to phone your mom, phone your mom. So you
Yeah.
do get policemen out there that aren't just there to antagonize you and give you the worst day
Mm.
of your life. They are just all human. So I'm pretty sure if you can apply it to a sympathetic or an empathetic point,
Yeah.
that you should be able to get through the system much easier than you would if
Yeah.
you antagonize
And
them.
most
And
police, they're not sitting there waiting, oh, I'm gonna screw this guy living at 12, Biswini or whatever, oh, can't wait. They just get a letter from their boss. Please go raid this house, or please go inspect this facility, and then they get 10 oaks together. They say, cool, we all need to go today, or like it's just their morning briefing. They're like, oh, we have to go at 9 p.m. tonight for another, look around some random guy's house, and probably find nothing. But so they're not there to screw
yeah,
you. It's very little chance they've got a grudge
and
against you.
it could also be like sometimes you'll get a senior and a junior official, and the senior official will see you smoking cannabis on the street,
Mm,
and he is very hostile and it comes from a conservative world, and he's really harsh to you. But eventually, okay, now you're in the police station, he's upstairs doing paperwork, and he's asking his junior colleague to assist with the processing while he's doing the police work.
yeah.
Now you're sitting with a different policeman. Suddenly, this chick is super friendly. She's very helpful. And I've even had the instance, where they've confessed the one policeman to the arrested person. Like, if it was up to me, I
Mm,
obviously wouldn't have even have stopped you. I would have just driven by and
yeah.
acted like we haven't seen you. But this is my senior partner,
Yeah,
senior
it's
partner
not
or
up to
more
them.
senior partner. It's not up to them. So if you were hostile from the beginning, you never even would have gotten the opportunity to know that you're going to be working with multiple policemen during this process.
Mm, mm,
If you're going to be there for longer than 24 hours, if they want to use the 48 hours, just know their shifts. They're
yeah.
not working 48-hour shifts. So there's a good chance in a few hours a different policeman is going to come here, not even knowing why you're in the cells, but his job is just to obviously keep an eye on you, and he could be in a completely different mood than the previous guard.
Probably a better mood.
So plenty of things to consider, but I think the most important is just know that you're going to be walking into a very dirty and unsanitary
Yeah.
and unpleasant situation. And just from the start, keep an open mind, try to be as calm and collected as possible. Try and get police bail so that you know you'll be out as soon as possible. Uh, and again, just don't be hostile or antagonize them,
No.
because as you said, they're just doing their job. And don't take this the wrong way. There are isolated cases. There are still crimes based on discrimination just of skin color or ethnic. There's a lot of things that they're just people, and people have feelings, and people have opinions, and
Yeah.
people have different opinions and different views. So it's very important to try rather play the policeman than now play the system,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
the system is always going to be in place, and it's not the policeman that can give you any long-term, you know,
A way out,
penalty.
or yeah.
It's going to
Oh,
be the
yeah.
courts.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. People are always fighting the police when they don't realize the actual battle is in court, because that's where the judge can make an order which can severely impact your life.
Yeah.
Yeah, the policeman can bump you around a bit and take your phone and maybe keep you in the cells, gross cells, longer than possible. But you're going to be out there within a week.
Yeah.
And you're going to say that was horrible, but that's when the real fight starts, when you've
Yeah.
got a return date and you've got to go before a magistrate and then explain it. So I think a very key takeaway here is don't fight the policeman. Remember that your battle is going to lie in court.
Yeah, and I think it is one sort of ending note is, I mean, there are ways to prevent this from happening. The guys listening at home, I mean, at the moment, cannabis, it's legal to grow at home in a private place for adult consumption. So it's try to stay within those confines, and then also, there's also things like don't tell everyone you're growing cannabis, and yeah, it's cool and whatnot, but you do attract a little bit of risk profile to yourselves. And then another thing you could probably do as a preventative is, if you are growing a sort of large amount of plants, or medium amounts of plants, is get a little bit of consultation beforehand. Like Schindler's attorneys, they have a whole cannabis department. There are other attorneys or firms that have cannabis departments slowly popping up. You guys have been involved on the fight for the legalization of cannabis, right, since the initial Prince case. And yeah, it does go a long way to just have someone explain. I mean, this was a lot of free advice for you guys listening. But yeah, if you, maybe your scale's a little bit bigger, I mean, we were just talking home scale size. If you're a little bit more committed, you might want to have a sit down and just run through some of the better ways to protect yourself for a wrongful arrest and things like this, and just know
Yeah,
what to do,
when
prepare
you
yourself.
when you're going a bit bigger scale than private use, I would say prevention is better than cure, because when you just a person growing and smoking at home, there's not really much you can do to prevent being arrested, and just to make sure that the quantities that you have are within the prescribed limits. But the moment you even go a bit more overboard and you want to grow on other people's behalfs, and you plan on having more than 15 or 20 plants, anything more than can reasonably argued is for a single person's personal use, then there are ways to prevent rather the arrest as well. Even if
Yeah.
they show up with a warrant, you can give them an opinion regarding why your mower is legal. Then you can make representations, etc. But mostly, it is so easy to succumb to the system and just think that the bribe is the way to do it, because that's probably how everybody else does it.
Yeah.
and that could just lead you into more trouble. I can't say that this isn't still happening as we speak.
Yeah,
I still
unfortunately.
get people that say I got arrested. I'm like, oh, what happened? I was like, let's not talk about it. But that's I can't advise you to not do that at all. You are your own person, and I am advising you not to do it at all. But
Yeah.
at the end of the day, I've given clients plenty of advice which they decide not to follow.
Yeah.
In the first place, yeah, just make sure that if they're there, and it's very important to know that a lot of police will try and like it's an ongoing thing, they'll be like, oh no, but I saw you smoking, and eventually you just want to say, am I arrested or not? Like, am I being charged or not?
Yeah.
Don't be afraid to reach that point early. Don't wait until you've had this entire dialogue and he knows about now your dad's property there and all of that.
Yeah.
Like from the get-go, do you have a warrant? Am I being charged? Am I under arrest?
Yeah.
They don't have to first have an interview with you to decide
Yeah.
whether you under arrest
Yeah.
or not. You can demand, am I under arrest or not?
And they
So
often will start asking about your I've heard terrifying things, or not terrifying, but people, asking about their sexuality and asking about, oh, is this your boyfriend? And, and
oh
like,
yeah, completely irrelevant
yeah,
stuff.
relevant stuff, and it
Almost
can make you
making
really
small talk.
uncomfortable. Yeah, and it's
Yeah,
inappropriate small talk. It's and
yeah.
you can just be like, they don't have to be in. And when you're in that position, you are like, they'll be sometimes
You
going through
feel
your
like you
house.
have to entertain it because they're
Yeah,
the police and they're asking you
they're
questions,
asking
but
you
you're
what
not
salary you're
obliged to
earning,
entertain
how much
it.
money you're making, and things like that. So yeah, you don't. Those are obviously questions you don't have to
Yeah,
tell
when
anyone.
when they when they ask you that question, you're just like, "What am I under arrest?"
Yeah, yeah, like, all right, you can just maybe laugh it off or whatever,
Then
but
then they can either say no or yes, and if they say yes, then you're like, "Okay, what for?" And then you
yeah.
can start the process. But if
Mm.
they say no, then you're like, "Then I'm really out of here."
No. Well, guys, thank you so much for the info, and I think there'll be, you guys can leave some comments in the description in below the video, and then I'll try to be able to get back to some of those comments on there, and then yeah, this is not legal advice; it's tips and tricks, guys. So it's just a bit of guidance. Yeah, as well, I'm not a lawyer or an attorney, so don't call me if you get arrested. It does happen sometimes. But yeah, yeah, thanks so much to Schindler's attorneys for giving us the info, and yeah, thanks Stefan for joining us today.
No, my pleasure, Andrew, and thanks to all the listeners. Let's hope you never get to use this advice.
Hopefully so. Thanks.